All right, good afternoon to those of you on the East Coast. Good afternoon also to those of you on the West Coast. I'm your host, Brandon Troy, also co-creator of Movers and Shakers Unlimited, and thanks so much for joining us for another edition of This Week in Review, the show in which we give you the rundowns or the goings on, if you will, of what's happening in entertainment, whether it's in film and TV, on the business, business end of entertainment. We try to give you the rundown so that way you don't have to keep up with a lot of the goings on. And of course, I'm not alone in talking about the goings on of this past week. I am joined by Spillman, aka Spills. Let me bring him on now. Spillman, what's going on, man?
What's up, ladies and gentlemen? How's it going? I hope you're having a great week. I'm having a good week. I'm happy to be here with you. Talk about some new topics. We got some big news on the fronts that I care about. So, I can't wait to get into them.
All right, let's get into it. So, first and foremost, first story that I want to get into is Saw X, and that's right, Saw. Saw is back, ladies and gentlemen. They had a trailer that dropped for Saw X this week, giving us a look in the new installment. There are some, components of it that are fascinating in terms of where this particular installment takes place, but we still have a lot of the tropes and the aesthetic that we expect out of a Saw movie. A lot of contraptions, contraptions, if you will, and a lot of body parts going all over the place due to all of these elaborate contraptions and traps. So Spillman, talk to me, man. Are you excited to have another installment of Saw, or is it just the you know business as usual?
I think it's going to be a good movie. I could have sworn, I don't know if this is true, but I could have sworn that Saw X already came out. I could have sworn that. But maybe I'm just like weird. But, it's crazy. It's been 10 of these movies. The one thing I can take away from the trailer is there's a scene on the trailer where the saw jigsaw is sketching the contraptions that he's making, and that's terrifying. Like, imagine you're on a train, you're just sitting there, you look over at your compatriot on the train, he's drawing up torture devices. Like, what do you do with that? Like, oh, so terrifying. The Saw movies have been a great, you know, uh, gore film franchise. That's what they're really known for, the hardcore gore. I got a lot of friends who are really hard into the horror movies, so I'm sure they're crazy about this one coming out. We haven't really had that many gory horror movies in recent years. Like, I can't really think of, like, I think Mama or what's that little doll? They've had the doll or the Covenant, that scary nun, but that's not really gore. Like, it's more jump scares and stuff. But the Saw stuff is truly stomach curdling. So I'm interested to see what it
Are
is.
you
How
talking
about
about
you guys?
Annabelle?
Yeah, Annabelle. There's Annabelle. Those are really the ones that's come out in the last few years. I can't think of anyone that's like super gory. I think they came out. Didn't they come out with an Evil Dead sequel like in
Yeah,
the
no,
last
they came
3 years?
out. I guess you could call it, guess a reboot or a requel of sorts. So
Yeah,
like
yeah.
it still kept, I guess, the events of the prior film, if I recall,
Mm-hmm.
intact, but it
Mm-hmm.
still kind of was a soft reboot of that story. And for me, I don't know. It's more business as usual, honestly.
Mm-hmm.
It's funny that you brought up just the idea of, I didn't know there was. I thought that 10 had already come out. There's so
Mm-hmm.
many of these installments, and don't get me wrong, like I like the Saw franchise, but I feel like um it started feeling like it was beating a dead horse after maybe three, where like
Mm-hmm.
there's only but so many contraptions that you can come up with to kind of keep things fresh and entertaining. It
Yeah.
just kind of feels like more of the same. Um, and in speaking to what I was mentioning before, this film apparently is going to be a prequel of sorts. Because anyone who knows has a a general idea of the Saw franchise, you'll know that Jigsaw. Spoiler alert, but I mean the franchise has been out forever. Uh, doesn't survive. Like he ends up dying in one of the installments. So that's why it was fascinating to kind of see them have his character in the film. So this actually, from what I understand, takes place between 1 and 2. So it's giving us, even though it's acting as a new, quote unquote, a new installment, in terms of its order, in terms of the order of events of where this story takes place within the whole tapestry or franchise of Saw. It takes place earlier, which makes a lot of sense, seeing that we have a character who's supposed to be dead. So it'll be interesting, I guess, to revisit some components that we've already been introduced to. My guess is maybe what they might do is kind of do wibbly wobbly, I guess, type of play with time, where perhaps most of the events of the movie is going to take place in the past, and maybe they'll kind of bring it full circle to present day, perhaps. Uh,
Hmm.
Play around with the at what point of time in the legacy of Jigsaw um is the film is taking place in, because we do see, and I don't know if you noticed this and seen the trailer, we do uh get looks at some of those people that he inspires and who end up becoming, I guess you can say, disciples of his, that are in
Hmm.
this installment that we see. So maybe they're going to provide a new angle or slant in terms of this, prequel story, where yes, it takes place in the past, but somehow it affects what transpires in modern day. Maybe it does something where it moves the story forward in the modern day, even though it takes place in the past. I don't know if that makes sense, but um, 'cause we see that, sometimes I'm trying to think of, there was another film was like, Final Destination did
Hmm.
similar, where I don't know if you remember that installment, I believe it was 5, if I recall, where we thought that it was a new story, and come to find out that it was a prequel of what transpired before the events of the first film, where like
Right.
characters from that film ended up on the plane with the characters of the first film, so it provided like
Hmm.
a new angle of what we knew about the entire franchise. So perhaps something similarly is happening here. But any final thoughts or impressions before we hop into our next story?
Just if you are into this, I say go to it. Maybe you want to talk to somebody about why you like to see people getting cut up and dismembered and disfenestrated and stuff, thrown out of windows and stuff. Like if that's your thing, people
That
things are
torture
their thing.
porn,
So
yeah, that torture porn, yeah.
yeah, yeah, you gotta watch that. So yeah,
Well, I
excited
mean,
to see it. I'll
we need
probably
a lot of folks that need some talking to, because hey, we in installment number 10, Chief. So
number 10. It's millions of them out there. Yes, for sure.
so with that being said, let's hop into our next story, and this one is pretty
Speaking of torture porn, this next one, ooh, ladies and gentlemen,
mind-boggling. So
ooh,
over this week, USA baseball, their team, their under 12 team, set a record against New Zealand with a record score of 43-1. I remember when I posted this, I had folks said, is this like the real score? Like they thought I was like it was an exaggeration, that it was a joke, that this was actually the legit score of this game. So Spillman, talk to me, man. Like we're both athletes. We play sports. Whether it's basketball, football, whatever the case may be. And tell me what might be going through the heads of like the other team, to just like how demoralizing that could be of like having a
I think when it's something like this,
to
it's not
win.
demoralizing because I feel like when you show up in a gym like that, or a field of play, and you see the other team, and the other team is clearly better. Like their worst player is 10 times better than your best player. It's a problem. One year when I was playing youth basketball, we played a team in South Carolina,
Yeah.
and every person on their team could windmill. So they were in layup lines. Ha! They look like the 2000 Toronto Raptors when Trace McGrady and Vince were still together. Ha! They were doing all kinds of crazy stuff, all kinds of hang time things, and then they went on to beat us, of course. But sometimes you just are overmatched, and it's better to be overmatched than to lose it in a squeaker because you still remember those. Like it's hard to remember the ones where you're like, oh man, they had this kid that was going to go play D1 at a Power Five school. Of course they beat us. All of them went to Power Five schools, but just crazy. 43 points is crazy, ladies and gentlemen. And they
Here's the
it's
thing.
just
It could have been worse than this, folks. It could have been worse than this. Like
yes.
apparently, like they called the mercy rule and ended it after 4 innings. Like it could have gone. It could have been even more, more insane than the score. That's the crazy part of it. So like,
It's just crazy. I just USA a okay. Number one, America, yeah. It just shows our dominance. We're taking teams over there. New Zealand, the land of hobbits. They better learn. We sent them to Mordor. We don't care. We just destroyed them. Just excited to see those kids play. It's almost like that episode of South Park where they were playing in the Little League World Series and they just kept winning because other teams just wanted to go home. I bet you any amount of money that New Zealand team was just ready to go home, and they were just like, "Whatever, dude. We're here. We flew. They probably flew here. That's a 20-hour flight." They were probably like, "Hey, man, we tried our best, but this is America's game. We don't play this game in New Zealand. We have too much fun doing the haka dance or whatnot. Imagine if they did do the haka dance before the game. Imagine making that scary face and then losing 42 by 42 points. Crazy. Also, who scored the one run for New Zealand? Was it a solo homer? Did they steal home or something? I wonder how that happened. I feel like the one is more impressive than the 43, which when you think about it is crazy. But if the other team is scoring 43 and you can score one, you must be pretty good. So kudos to that kid.
no, I hear you. I hear you. So again, mind-boggling. This type of score. This is like a score that you would see in a video game where
Oh yeah,
how it is.
they
Like
were
back
playing
in
on
the
rookie
day,
for sure.
yeah. All my gamers know. If you're playing, your sports game and you do your create a player, you have all your ratings up to like 99 as yourself, but you playing on your team and like you blowing teams out by like 30 and 40 points because you have like 50 or 60 points, like you have like insane numbers, the rest of your team has like insane numbers. But
Right.
yeah, like to actually see it, have it happen like live like that, in the flesh, in person like that is pretty mind-boggling. But yeah, like shout out to the USA baseball team, the under 12 team. Congratulations of being able to put a statement out there. Of uh, uh, your abilities as a team. Um, and yeah, like it's pretty insane. Well, it's
Totally
nothing you can
insane.
say about it.
There's
All
nothing you can say about it. But that's American exceptionalism, ladies and gentlemen. That's what we're talking about.
for sure, for sure. So, uh, switching gears to something that was unfortunate that did happen this week, and that's none other than actor Paul Rubens passed away at 70 this week. And many folks, if you remember Paul Rubens, I'm sure folks know him as Pee Wee Herman. Perhaps you also know him from take a real OG level. I watched the TV series, but I also watched the movie before the TV series
Oh yeah, he was on Buffy.
Vampire Slayer.
Yeah.
So
Ah.
yeah,
Ah.
exactly.
Ah.
And like the crazy thing is, like, I remember seeing that movie and I was like, that's Pee Wee Herman? Like that's the same dude? just to
Right.
give you an idea of like his range and how he was able to kind of be a chameleon and transform into that character. Because like I didn't even recognize. I remember watching that growing up and didn't even realize it was the same person, same actor. So
Hmm.
in thinking of the legacy of what Rubens has done, not just for kids with as I said with Pee Wee Herman, but even um you know what he's done beyond that as what I dropped with Buffy the Vampire Slayer among many other things.
Blow, of course.
What are your thoughts, man?
I just think that Paul Rubens, all-time great. It's kind of sad the way that his career hit that bump in the '90s. He was doing well. He got in trouble for something that you couldn't possibly get in trouble for today, because it's not really a thing anymore. But I just hold on.
What's up,
Sorry
Mo,
about that,
man?
ladies and
What's up?
gentlemen.
What's up? What's up?
Say hello to the people on the internet. Say
What's
hello.
good? What's good?
Yep, he just woke up. Sorry, ladies and gentlemen. We got a short person in it. We got a cameo appearance
Got a
over there.
cameo.
We got cameo appearance. But no, Pee Wee Herman. The character started out in the '70s on the Cheech and Chong movies. A lot of people don't know that. He obviously cleaned it up because the Cheech and Chong movies are pretty raunchy. The character was pretty raunchy on the Cheech and Chong movies, but they did make him into something much more palatable to general masses for the Pee Wee show. Like I said, his character in Blow is one of the great like drug dealer characters in a drug movie, so that's pretty good. Yeah, but I mean, I love Pee Wee's Playhouse. Low key, we probably might not have a Matrix movie if it wasn't for Pee Wee Herman because he did save Lawrence Fishburne's career. He put him out as Cowboy Curtis when Lawrence hadn't worked in a few years, and that helped him to keep him through till he got other roles like in Menace to Society and stuff like that. Boys in the Hood, not Menace to Society, but Boys in the Hood, the first one. But yeah, I just Paul Rubens was a great. Yeah, so all right, that's it. That's all I got.
All right, cool. So I guess on my end is just the idea. I remember, growing up and Pee Wee's Playhouse, was obviously, during that time, during that decade of when I was coming up was definitely a huge thing. And
Iconic.
yeah, iconic for sure. And I know you brought up Lawrence Fishburne, so many other actors who came up through that vehicle as well that will go on to do other massive things in their career. And just to think of that, as I said, Buffy the Vampire Slayer, and many other projects that that he's been a part of and done. And I feel like he's left such an indelible mark on pop culture, that I don't know it will honestly be repeated. I mean, we have other major icons out there. If I'm thinking of Mr. Rogers is another one. We'll never. I don't feel like we'll ever have another person like Mr. Rogers again. In that series. So yeah, like it's unfortunate to have him pass away. But he's left quite a legacy of of his body of work. And I'm sure we wouldn't have many of the other figures that we have that are in that you know space for kids, that we wouldn't have if it wasn't for the impact and the influence and the inspiration that Paul Rubens provided in the character that he created with that he had with Pee Wee Herman. So rest in peace.
For sure.
Yeah.
For sure. Rest in peace to Paul Rubens. It was sad, even the fact that he had the cancer diagnosis that we didn't know about. But just rest in peace. And these cultural figures, They touch us, and it's just like, it's amazing that we have them.
for sure.
So
Sure.
yeah.
All right, so hopping into our next story, the next thing we're going to get into is none other than Wonder Woman. So this week, which was quite surprising, in an interview with comicbook.com, Gal Gadot, revealed that Wonder Woman was in fact, in the works, and it will actually be, what made it so surprising is that it's happening under course, the James Gunn, and Peter Safran regime. So, what the reason why this is so surprising is if you guys have been keeping track of kind of the timeline of Gunn and Safran, taking over the creative reins of the DC EU, the DC Film Universe, DC Studios, however way you want to, coin it or call it. There was a understanding, or it seemed to be an impression that it would be a clean, reboot and a complete redo of that universe. However, with the news of this, it raises a lot of questions like, are we Ben Jerrying a lot of the components of, the Snyderverse, where there are going to be some things that are different and there are going to be some things that remain the same. I know at one point there had been the designation that Blue Beetle would be a part of the Gun Saffron, DC universe, which makes sense, even though it's technically a part of the Snyderverse era. You could still kind of make that work because it's in a kind of weird limbo where it doesn't, from what I understand, and I could be wrong about this, maybe they've changed it, but from what I understand about the film is that they're not really including the baggage of having other characters pop up in that particular film, like what we saw in like The Flash or what we saw in Black Adam. So it's easier to kind of still acknowledge characters that are around, but you can still seamlessly try to include it in the current universe because there isn't anything there that would conflict with what's come before. So, Spillman, tell me your thoughts on this of us having Gal Gadot. And don't get me wrong, like I love Gal Gadot as Wonder Woman, but it seems like they're kind of, going back on what we thought was going to be the original goal from the jump when they had taken over at DC.
Well, I think that they do realize one thing that's true about fans of this kind of genre. They don't like when you put in new actors for the same roles that other actors that they liked or were successful in are changed. So I think the fact that they have, kept Gal Gadot as Wonder Woman is just a sign that Gal Gadot is the hold on.
You're fine. I'll give Spillman a minute. But yeah, no, it's just, fascinating in the way of, if we're going to make a clean break, then the understanding is we want to make a clean break, even if it may be an actor, actors that maybe you seem to like, and they're actors that you didn't like allegedly. It just seems like you're going back and forth on something that it seemed like you were very clear cut about in the beginning, and seeing that I'll be honest, based on the circumstances of the last couple installments that we've had in the DCEU, it seems like they're backtracking on what their initial intention was based on.
That's what I'm saying. That's what
That's
I'm
what it
saying.
feels like.
Like Gail's like I think like her box office numbers speak for themselves. Why would you get rid of her just because you got a new director to kind of streamline this stuff?
If you want to make a
You
clean
know,
break, even if it's like, you know, it may not be popular with everybody. You're going to have to make a clean break. If it means you're doing a clean break,
Yeah,
everyone has to be recast. And like I said, I
I
love Gal
disagree with
Gadot
that.
as
I think
Wonder Woman, but now that you're bringing Gal Gadot back, a lot of people want to be like, okay, so why didn't you bring Henry Cavill back? Like, what's up with
yeah.
that?
I think they're flirting with bringing Henry Cavill back. I think that even though we've had issues with it, they've had issues with like the numbers and everything. I feel like it's really just the numbers about this stuff, and everything is the money. And when we're talking about these cases, so I think that they're trying to bring him back. I know that they did a new Batman movie, but that's really because Ben Affleck's too old to play Batman. I know that the Snyderverse guys are gonna get mad at me. I know y'all love Ben Affleck. I know y'all love Batfleck, but to me, he was an inferior Batman. He's older. He was good for when they were using him for like the Dark Knight Returns type stuff. That was cool. Like having him as a seasoned Batman. But seeing a guy that's 20 years younger than him on screen playing Batman, it made it look much better. There wasn't as much CGI, so I do understand that. And obviously people have things about like Jared Leto being Joker. They don't like that one, even though Snyderverse they made him look cooler when he was in a flashback. But I don't actually care about that. It was not a good movie. But I'm just happy to see that they're still working with Gail. Because usually, also another thing, usually women actors are the first ones to get cut in these kind of situations. So it's good to
Oh,
see that they.
so here's the thing. Here's the thing that's crazy about this is I remember when the transition was happening, and when we were seeing that transition happen with a lot of the actors being notified that hey, like DC is going a different way. I want to say Wonder Woman, that franchise was one of the first casualties of that change. Because I remember, when they were talking about three being in development, and then they kind of just pulled the plug on it of it. So, from what I understood, when if we're talking about the timeline of Gunn and Safran taking over and kind of, starting to have those meetings with, folks that were a part of the uh the Snyderverse regime. Like they, were having the meetings with the actors and, and I guess in the most PC sense, we're telling them, okay, we appreciate, what you brought to the character in essence, but we're going a different way. Now it kind of seems a little disingenuous, I'll be honest, that like that you are keeping some actors but not keeping others, and so we'll see what happens with that. Yeah, I know you were sharing what your impressions were with Ben Affleck. I thought Ben Affleck was a good Batman. However, I understand your qualms about him being feeling like he was too old for the part. um
Yeah, for sure.
but
He's
here's
on the
the thing.
wrong side of 40.
I don't know. I think based off of what we know would happen with or what was supposed to transpire in the alleged, Batman solo film, it was supposed to be a film, and I don't know if you're aware of this or heard about it, but it was supposed to be a film in which like Batman was like trapped in Arkham Asylum, if I understand, and he would basically be going up against a lot of his rogues gallery. However, the main puppeteer would have been Deathstroke, like orchestrating the whole thing. And so, as we know, Joe Manganiello, I believe name, from True Blood and from many other projects, who featured in what Justice League and in the end credit scene. Um, I thought that the idea of that would have been an interesting premise, and I feel like Affleck had a few more installments in him to kind of do something, interesting with the Batman that he, provided to that universe. I want to say it's more based on what you're telling me your issues were, with him being Batman. I think it's more of the circumstances with that with that franchise than it is with what he brought to that role. Um because I thought that he was perfectly fine in the Flash and in the brief time that he's in that film, that he works in that film. Like he's not. I don't feel like he's the issue. A lot of people have issues with that film. He is not the issue. I feel with that film and what he brought to it and the time that he's in that film. So, but did you have any final impressions before we get to the story that I'm sure you really want to dig into?
Oh no, I don't have anything else to say about Gail Gadot. I'm happy to see
I
WW3.
mean,
That'd
as
be
I said, I'm
cool.
happy to see that it's coming. It just
Yeah, for
seems, like I
sure. Good
said,
for
kind
her.
of weird that there seemed to be such a point made about making a fresh start, and it doesn't seem like you are. So, but
For sure.
all right. So our final story that we will get into which is why I mentioned it to Spills, because as you know, Spills is a part of Laker Nation, loves his Lakers. So AD Anthony Davis over the course of this week landed a historic 3-year, 186 million extension. Insane, which basically would mean that he's getting 62 million each over the next 3 years. So, Spillman, I'm gonna punt the ball over to you, sir. I just want to know your thoughts about our friend here, Mr. Anthony Davis, and what are your thoughts on dropping this amount of money, this bag on Mr. Davis, considering what we've gotten in the last 2 years?
Well, I will say that Anthony Davis has met up to the expectations. I didn't expect him when we got him to be playing 82 a year because he never did that in New Orleans. But he won us a championship in 2020, and he took us to the conference finals until we ran into that mountain of a man, Nikola Jokic. So I'm excited to see him get re-signed. He's he's another in the long line of Laker greats, great big men. He's running the league like we said he should. He's running the league like we said he should. He led the league in rebounds last year. He was number 6 in blocks, 15 in points. Like you can't say anything bad about him other than maybe y'all on the internet say he don't play enough, but he played more than Kyrie or any of the boys. So I'm happy to see that. I'm happy to see that he is the guy because he is the guy. He's the guy. LeBron wouldn't have won his fourth championship without him. So let's be
Let's
real. Would
let's
LeBron have won that fourth chip because he was
let's
struggling to
correct
get
that.
that
You
fourth
say he's
chip?
the guy. He's supposed to be the guy.
Oh,
Let's
he
be
is for
honest.
sure. He's the best player on our team. The best player on our team,
Supposed to
hands
be the
down.
guy.
Yeah.
He was supposed to be the guy after y'all won the championship in 2020, but he's still been in LeBron's shadow, which is insane to say because LeBron is like he's supposed to be handing the reins over to Davis, and I feel like that hasn't happened
I don't feel like you can hand the reins over if you're LeBron James. LeBron James is the greatest player of all times. He's the GOAT.
yet.
You see it.
We're not going to go down this rabbit
He's the
hole.
GOAT. When you're playing
Go
with
down
the
this rabbit
all-time
hole
leading
of him
scorer,
of all the
a
finals that
top
he's lost.
4 assists in NBA history.
We're not going to go down the rabbit hole of all the finals that he's lost. He's at my number
Well, it
2.
don't matter about finals loss because it's a team sport at the end of the day. Sometimes you run up into teams that cheat and get players that they shouldn't get, like your team did,
Undefeated, like I said, undefeated in the
because
finals.
he definitely beat y'all in 2016 when y'all had y'all 73
Undefeated
and
in the
9. Y'all
finals.
thought y'all was better than Michael Jordan. Y'all thought y'all was better than Michael. But it don't mean a thing without the ring. Remember that. That's what Scotty and them said. It don't mean a thing. You can win all the regular season games you
All
want
I
to.
got is this. Jordan is my GOAT. He has never won. He's never lost a finals. And
He's lost
also,
other.
my
He only won
Warriors.
6 championships. Brandon, what are you talking about? It's only 6 championships.
And also, my Warriors have taken out your GOAT twice.
But
And
he's taken out your Warriors twice.
in
We
his
took
quote
out. We
unquote
also.
in his quote unquote, peak years or his prime years.
We made y'all
And
trade
I will
Jordan
give
Poole this year. We made y'all
I
trade
will give
Jordan Poole.
LeBron props. LeBron is one of the greats. He's not the
The goat.
greatest, but he's one of
The
the greats.
goat.
He's up there.
He's the goat.
He's up there, but he
He's
ain't
the
he ain't the
goat.
guy.
He's the GOAT, ladies and gentlemen.
So you have
He's
to
the
agree
GOAT.
to disagree on that. But again, like considering, I'm not denying the fact that Anthony Davis is a supreme talent. He is. But the durability, I'm gonna be honest, is what concerns me. And I mean, I've joked about it before. Now I know they've joked about it even on, all those, among all the commentators with, Barkley and Shaq and all of those cats of what is it? Church clothes? What's the nickname?
Street clothes. They call him street clothes. But he's played more games since he's been a Laker than Stephen Curry. So I don't care. He's played more games than Steph. He's played more games than Paul George and Kawhi Leonard. He's
He's
played more
supposed
games.
to.
No, I don't care. Y'all talk
He's
about these
younger
other.
than
No
them.
one,
He's
no one
supposed
calls,
to.
no one calls Kawhi
Why are we
street
giving
clothes,
him
and
credit
Kawhi
for
plays
something that
60
he's
games a
supposed
year.
to do? Why are we giving him credit for something that he's supposed to do? That's supposed to be a given.
The best ability is availability. We know that, and he's been available more than any of your guys have.
That's a given. That he's if you're a younger player, it's a given that you're supposed to play more. We're not going to pat him on the back for something that he should be doing. So I don't know. As I said,
Whoa!
Anthony Davis, supreme talent, but durability wise, I don't know. 62 million, 62 million a year. That's a lot. That's
It's
a
a
lot.
lot, but the Lakers are the Lakers because they pay the people that win championships. They keep you around if
Oh
you
yeah,
win
we do too. The
championships.
Warriors do too. That's
You
why they have
gotta
such a
pay
huge.
if you want to win
That's why they have
championships.
such a huge luxury tax. That we
You
do
gotta
too.
pay the cost to be the boss. You want to be the Wizards and get rid of people when they deserve money, or give
I don't
people
worry
who
about
don't
the Wizards.
deserve money or something like
Wizards
that. I
don't
mean,
want
that's what middle league franchises do. They don't
it.
pay people.
Wizards can keep on keeping on. They can
That's
keep
right.
moving.
That's right. But the Lakers, they
Ain't
do
worry
pay,
about the
especially
Wizards.
big men. They pay big men. So and he's on the right side of the age bracket. You'd have to give him that money. I mean, we don't know how much longer LeBron's going to play, so we need somebody to put butts in seats. And Anthony Davis is a bad boy.
If he put butts on seats, if you on the bench, on the
Oh my God,
sidelines.
that's crazy. He averaged like 6 blocks a game against y'all in the playoffs this year. So I don't know why
Yeah,
you're
because y'all
talking so
had to.
cavalier, but
Hey
he was
look. You know why
putting
they
things
did?
back in your faces. Ah, ah,
Oh, you know why
ah,
he did that?
ah,
Because you had to put some fire
ah.
under him. You had to put some fire under him to actually get him to play the way he's supposed to play. I'll give him credit where credit is due. In the postseason, he had a great postseason. But again, he should have had that the whole season, not just the postseason. The only reason
Well,
why he
no,
had
no,
it during the
well, no, no, no,
postseason,
no, no. We don't care
the only
about regular
reason why he
season
had it during
games.
the
That's for
postseason is
terrible teams.
because
Regular season games don't matter.
only reason why he had it during the postseason is because, and you can agree with it or not agree with it, he knew that his position was at risk, that his spot was at risk because people were talking about how durable he was. So he had to come out and show people, which is fine, but you need to do that the whole season, not just the postseason. You need to be dominant throughout the entire year, not just one part of the year. You can't just turn it on, which is
I disagree with that. I think that the playoffs are the most important years to be the part of the year to be dominant. If you're not as dominant during the regular season, but you turn it up in playoffs, that's literally the definition of greatness, and that's why you
he
can
was
say
just
Michael
timid.
Jordan is
He was
great
timid.
because Michael turned it up to another level in the playoffs. That's what we're talking about. It's the playoffs. That's what we care about. I don't care if you don't play 82 games. I don't care. That doesn't matter. If you go to the playoffs and you dominate, we were in one of the most vulnerable positions this year. We were in the playing game and we made the conference final. So let's please give credit where credit's due. Them boys worked their tails off this year. So they got money. Everybody got re-signed because we overachieved. If you overachieve, you get money. That's how it works.
Nah, that's more the front office with the additions that you guys had.
We
Because
got additions and we paid people.
it wasn't
We
looking
got
too
we got
pretty that first
Austin
half of
back,
the year. So
hillbilly
I will
Kobe
I will
back.
say this. This year is really going to be interesting because now we'll see what your team is truly made of and not just what they're made of in the second half of the season and see how they really work now that they actually have a squad that they, had going into the postseason. So we'll see for sure. But with that being said, that's going to wrap up our show of This Week in Review. We want to thank you guys so much for watching. Before we head off. I'm gonna punt it off to Spillman. Spillman, take it away, sir. Can you tell folks where they can find you?
All right, ladies and gentlemen, you can find me on Instagram at Truly Spill. Thanks for being patient with Mr. Baby doing a little cameo today. Sometimes he's usually
Yeah, you gotta
asleep,
make
but we
that
do.
cameo sometimes. You gotta do the do. You gotta do
Yeah. But that's great. Make sure you give us 5 stars, write reviews. Nathan Retta, thanks for giving a comment. Just happy. Off to you, Brandon.
All right, cool. So again, I want to thank Spillman as always to be my partner in crime, my co-host for this week in review. You can find me at Brandon Troy ENT on Twitter. Gosh, keep saying Twitter. That's gonna be stuck in my head. On X, you can find me at Brandon Troy ENT on X and Brandon Troy underscore ENT on Instagram. As I said, this week in review, we try to give you a rundown of the goings on over the course of the week. We do have a catalog of prior things that we have discussed. If you want to know our thoughts on that, make sure that you are heading over to this spot here. I know we're going live now, but I will have the video up here. Playlists of our prior episodes of topics that were discussed, because a lot of times what'll happen is we get into some carryover or some addition talking points that are carried over from prior episodes. So it's great to kind of know the history, if you will, of those discussions that Spill and I have had. Thank you guys so much for watching. Be safe out there, and I'll see you soon. Peace.
5 stars, 5 stars.